can I be honest with you? What you're about to hear was a very surreal experience for me. Now, in my time as a journalist and a podcaster, I've interviewed lots of high-profile individuals, from CEOs to sports stars to celebrities, you name it. But never Ice Cube. Until now. What you're about to hear is a conversation between myself, Cube, and his business partner, Jeff Kwatinetz, who together founded the Big3. Now, the Big3 is a touring 3-on-3 basketball league which visits arenas around the world to sell out crowds. It also has major rights deals with the likes of CBS in the US and others. Arguably, Ice Cube is one of the most famous people in the world with his career in music and entertainment. But he takes running the Big3 extremely seriously and is involved at all levels of executive decision-making. I'll be honest, I have to lift the lid slightly here. There were some slight technical issues during the recording, so apologies if the sound isn't great at all points, but I thought it would be really important to bring you as much of this conversation as we could. I'm Tom Bassam, this is the Sports Pro Podcast, and here is Ice Cube and Jeff Kwatinetz. Ice Cube, Jeff Kwatinetz, welcome to the Sports Pro Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Honestly, a real pleasure. The reason why is the announcement that came out this week that you guys are pivoting from being a sort of a touring property into being a franchise model. I'd like to first kick off by sort of asking, like, when was that decision made? How come you decided now was the right time to move away from what you've been doing before and into the franchise team-based system?
Well, we've been, working on this league for actually 9 years. It's our 7th season, so to speak. Because of the COVID year, we didn't have a season in 2020. But we've been working on the league for 9 years. So we've been, calibrating the game, making the game great as far as the actual game on the court, changing different things and aspects, and just making sure it was fun to play and fun to watch. And, we looked up and we have a beautiful game. And, now it's about taking the league to the next level. It's about growing the league worldwide. It's about connecting with smart people who have talent and influence and great sense of what's around the corner, and having us to, build a league that can stand the test of time. I believe we really started to think about it a couple of years ago, but we were really building the league back to our pre-COVID, heat. We wanted to get that heat back up. And so, we were able to do that last year, having a championship in London. And then we decide, it's time. It's time to spread the love.
And spread the burden a bit too?
In a way, we've done all the hard work. I mean, the impossible work, so to speak. But it's been a labor of love because we're so passionate about the game and the game that we have, which is Fireball 3, our version of professional 3-on-3, best league in the world. So here we are, and LA is our first stop. We want to be global with this, so we're looking at stops in places other than just the States.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to come on to kind of where you're looking at for the next teams, but I just wanted to get a little bit more of an understanding as to why it is the franchise model you think is going to be the one that takes you forward. I mean, because you've been really successful with what you're doing right now, right? You average really high attendances, your broadcast figures are good. I just wanted to get a little bit more of an understanding of the why on the franchise model. What is it that appeals about that?
When we first started, besides everybody saying that we were out of our minds to start a new sports league, because if you actually look at the numbers of new sports leagues and their success rate, it's pretty damn low. I think UFC was the last one to really be successful. But beyond that, a lot of the ideas that we had were considered very disruptive. No garbage minutes, going to points, the way that we created a lot of equality among payments for coaches and players. a lot of the rules, getting back to a little bit more physicality, promoting defense. Besides people telling us we were crazy to do a league, they would tell us that a lot of our specific ideas were crazy. And we weren't going to do something if we weren't going to be disruptive. I think if you look back at Ice Cube's career, when didn't he do it disruptive? And, my career, I think, is equally punctuated by looking at things different, doing things different. So we needed a tight group, of smart people. Amy Trask, part of our group, she was CEO of the Raiders for 17 years. They were pretty disruptive. Clyde Drexler, having a player as a commissioner until Live, we were the only ones that did, believe it or not, having female coaches. But it got to the point that our game is beautiful. We have millions of fans. The thing about, I've worked with Cube for almost 30 years, and why he's at his height of success, it's not just because he's brilliant creatively and brilliant at business. Of course, those are required aspects. But another big part is his willingness to, although he has strong views and positions because he's smart and knows so much about culture and sports and entertainment, but he's also open-minded, and I'd like to think I am too, to the point that when we come in with an idea, we don't need to be right. We like to say we want to get it right. And part of getting it right is having other input and other people with experiences and knowledge and their own relationships. He was telling me a story about an NFL owner who had brought some ideas to the NFL and initially got a lot of pushback, but, had a big impact on how they succeed in the sponsorship world. And, I think that Cube and Clyde had already come to the idea that we should probably do this. And that was the trigger for me. Like, we want a guy like that to come in and tell us, hey, you guys aren't doing this the best way you could do. Because no matter how it ends up, when you have those discussions, you always get to a better and smarter place. That can't be underestimated. And the owners that we're bringing in, as will be seen as those names become public, we're not getting people who are looking to own a team as a toy. This isn't pickleball. This isn't just or people who just want to hang out and meet famous basketball players. This is about people who want to help the sport succeed. And how could that hurt, having other people?
Maybe that's a good place to ask then how the deal with the guys at DCB came together. Like, when did you start talking to them? Why do you think that they were good partners to bring into Big 3?
I mean, I can tell you the first contact we had with them was over a year ago, and they have considerable international contacts in some big basketball countries, and it was about doing some other things with Big 3, in places like the Philippines and in Asia. And so that was the first time that we talked through stuff. His partner, Matt Sherman, worked for the NBPA, the players' union in the NBA. And we had talked to him through some of our efforts working with Jaylen Brown and some other ideas. And those guys ended up coming together. So when the word really got out that we were serious about bringing in team owners, they then came back to us. And they were pretty aggressive, really wanting to talk about this. And they have other, they're involved with Tiger and Rory's golf company, Tomorrow Sports, go at that level. They also have the San Francisco franchise of PGL. They also are involved in a horse racing league. They're involved in a number of other leagues, things that Cube and I aren't involved in. We're singly focused on this league. So they can bring in ideas and experiences that come from that. And without getting into specifics, it's already paid off. Gary Legita's already connected us with people that could really help in some of the marketing and promotion of the Big 3.
We can't speak on it, but they bring a level of star power as well that can help us promote the league in other ways. So, I had a lot to offer first franchise, especially coming out of Los Angeles. We think they cover a lot of bases. One question about why team ownership, why now, why cities, to have a more solid footprint in the sports world. We are kind of like a rolling all-star game, but having cities and having roots and having, fans from those cities, creating youth programs in those cities with our Young 3 program. We would love in the future for cities to offer 3-on-3 in their, rec league, kids, playing up at the park kind of, they do 5-on-5, but we'd like 3-on-3 in the parks, and we like 3-on-3 in high school. And we would like for players to grow up just like they want to play in the NBA. One day they want to play in the Big 3. As a kid growing up, they may like that style of basketball better, or they may be better at that style and not so good with the running up and down, so many people kind of touching the ball. So it's a lot of different reasons to plant roots in cities to grow this league. Then we can expand to more teams as well and grow the league that way.
Does DCB kind of set the profile for the kind of investor you're looking at? And also that level of investment as well, like that reported figure of $10 million for the franchise. Like, has it got to be someone like that that really brings something else to the Big 3?
I mean, the first 4 teams out of the 12 are set at $10 million. We set it at a price lower than all the bankers were telling us to do, but we were more focused on the, not making money off selling these teams, but on which 4 founding partners do we really think, portray the kind of ownership group we're looking for and the kind of skill sets. And then we'll sell the rest after the season when people have the benefit of seeing the season. And we have the benefit of having, our last season was so great. We know this season is going to even be next level from that. The owner groups, there's 2 that are pretty set, working on the 4th. It's possible that there could be some change out on them. But, one of the groups is in London, for a team in London, to build on what we did last year, having our All-Star and our championship game at the O2 Arena, and it really creating a vibe, in London. 2 of the ownership groups are already owners in one of the major 5 sports in America. So, NFL, Major League Baseball. The NBA doesn't let their owners invest in us. So,
even though they want to,
but I'm sure I'll hear about it from them in a couple of years when these franchises are gone for a lot more and be deprived of the opportunity. But there's no specific formula or requirement. We just don't want people who want to buy teams as toys. It's just like to put on a shelf, look how cool I am. I own these teams. We want people who we respect, who respect us, who respect the sport, have shared vision. So teams 5 through 12, those owners will say, I want to be part of that club. One of the things about owning an NFL team is that ownership, and that league is run so well. If you want to own a team, you want to own an NFL team because of the way it's run and what each of the owners bring. They might disagree on stuff, but I think most people would agree that all those ownership groups really bring something besides being rich people. We want that too. We want the owner group to be an asset to our league because, look, 10 years from now, we plan on being bigger than the NBA. So when people are looking around, like the ownership group, and we're talking about different marketing, different even rules, we don't want knuckleheads voting on stuff. I mean, this is our baby. I mean, Cube's one of the most creative people alive. And one of the decisions about bringing in owners is, hey, we're going to have other opinions and they're going to have votes. So we've always listened to other opinions, but it's been tightly controlled and we're going to lose some of that. So we want to know a lot of the values, the pro player, pro artist, you know, a lot of the disruption we brought to the sports business is maintained. So we ultimately can't control that forever, but we could be smart about people, bringing people with value systems that reflect ours, you know, that care about communities, not just taking from them. They care about not diversity in the bad word, like the check the box thing, but diversity in thought, about people with different backgrounds, people, you know, who came from hoods, people who came from, you know, mansions, you know, people who have different life experiences, you know. I think while some of our owners will be rich white billionaires, and we want smart rich white billionaires that are cool, we don't want to have ultimately 10 years from now, there's 30 teams and there's 30 sets of rich white billionaires who own it. We'd like the ownership group to reflect America, and it's good for the sport.
Cube, did you have any extra thoughts on that?
You hit it on the head. You know, we want smart people. It's additive. And, you know, whether they're super rich or just got a little money in their pocket, but as long as they're smart and they can help us grow this league, that's what we're looking for.
You mentioned that you had the kind of the other three lined up already. Cube, you mentioned sort of at the top of the call that it's not just going to be in the US. I mean, am I right in thinking they're probably going to be London and Toronto?
I mean, you know, we'll see who comes in. That's what we would like. That's who we're talking to. And, you know, we hope to see it happen. We want people to understand that 3-on-3 is loved all over the world. Basketball is loved all over the world. And we should probably be thinking globally at these things, you know, like our league, to bring in as many different areas of the globe that we can. It's just smart.
Makes sense. I would sort of like to kind of push on with talking about sort of like what the process of transition looks like, right? So like what have you guys learned from your touring model as it is, and how will transitioning to a team-based, like local-based franchise system work in terms of changing the competition? Will it still be in the same format? Yeah. How do you view it changing the Big Three?
We love the touring model. It's great. It's fun for our players. We've learned how to do it very well. It was a great way to introduce the sport to a lot of different places in America. And so now what's going to be different is we're going to know where we're playing each year. Since 2017, we've always had a wish list of places we wanted to go. But then, it's all about arena availability. It's all about CBS, shooting when they're ready to broadcast us. A lot of different factors came into play on where we played. Sometimes we wanted to go to this town, but they were renovating their arena, so we couldn't go, on the day we needed to go. So we had to go somewhere else. And, we've been doing that, finding the best place to play for us in these cities. We got a list of 200 cities that we want to go to. So now we're going to know where we're going every year. We will have the same format of 3 to 4 games in that location with the whole city as the marquee game. And so, people still see a lot of the league when they come out. And then we'll be able to expand. So we'll go from 12 cities to 16 cities to, to more.
London and Toronto will be two of the first 12. Whether they're in the first four or not, it's coming down to brass tacks, and we'll see. But the point is, starting with the season in 2025, when we're going to home teams, London's going to be one of them, as will be Toronto. And we've played them both, and it's been very successful, and people want us to be there. And, it's a global sport. I know that you cover soccer and fighting. We were told early on, Cube and I went to meet with the Fertittas, who started UFC with Dana White. They said, well, at least you picked the right sport. I said, why do you say that? And he said, well, 3 sports that travel the world, and it's fighting, soccer.
Yeah. It's up to the London investors then whether or not they want to be those early movers, as you talked about before, or whether or not you want them to, or whether or not they're going to be those that kind of join later once they see what you guys have set up.
Yep.
One of the things I thought about when I was thinking about what the issues would be when you transition to this new model is moving from a national product into being a local product. Are you worried about you might lose certain markets because you'll no longer be going there?
Well, I think when it comes to sports, people are used to that model. We're still a national sports. We're actually an international sport, but people are used to that model. They're used to teams representing cities. Sometimes you have a team in the race. Sometimes you don't, or your city do. And if your city doesn't have a team, most people adopt a team if they really like the sport. So we expect that same thing to happen. With the model that we have, we still can go to cities outside of the 12 that we have if we chose to. So we'll address that as it comes. But for the most part, we believe people love the sport and they'll follow the sport. They don't have a team right now. There's places we've never been, and we still have fans in those cities. So I think that'll just continue and even grow.
It's amazing that we've been able to accumulate millions of fans without representing cities. So we think this is going to unleash a lot more excitement in some big cities. But we've already proven, like Cube said, that people will follow teams that aren't from the cities because we didn't have any. I think when people see where the first 12 or maybe first 16 teams end up, there'll be teams from every region. There'll be ways that people could participate. And most importantly, I think it'll bring excitement to the broadcasts.
Yeah, and we want to do things like sometimes one city won't be covered, but a territory or area will be covered. Like if we put a city in Northern California, we may call it the Bay to cover several cities who claim the Bay as their home. So we can do things that's a little different than just traditionally, kind of pinpointing one area.
Was this sort of always the plan? Did you always want to go to a franchise-based model?
Well, I've been saying this for a minute that, that might be the way to go. We kind of knew, at a certain point, if we really want to grow, in the way that we should grow, then at a certain point, there's no way if we want to expand to 16, 20 teams, that essentially owning 20 teams would be a handful. So we want to expand. We want to grow. We knew at some point we would need owners to actually own the teams. Whether we would put them in cities or not, we didn't think about that as much in the beginning. But this is exactly where we want to be. If we wasn't at this point, then I think we'd wonder, how would the league actually grow past, 12 or 16 teams. So, we're at a point where we can see that the league can grow. More teams, more footprint, more ad dollars, more broadcast dollars, more games, more everything. So, we knew sooner or later in success, this is where we'd be. Put it that way.
Like Cube, I mean, obviously you come from like an entertainment background, right? This is the first time you've ever owned a big sports property. What's been the big thing that you've learned during this whole process? Like, which is easier as well?
I've learned, a lot about how the sports business works, behind the curtain, behind the scenes, what's really moving and shaking. I've learned that if you really want it, you have to be out front. You have to lead the charge. You can't sit back and let other people do the heavy lifting. You got to be willing to get your hands dirty and, make sure it works, make sure it happens, and it's been great. It's been an amazing experience, as an artist who've always had the table set for him in some way, shape, or form. I produce movies from scratch, but for the most part, I'm doing it for my movie, my thing, myself, my career as an artist. And here we're setting the table for our heroes like, Dr. J and Gary Payton and Drexler and Iceman and Nancy Lieberman and Lisa Leslie. We're setting the stage for the players as well, who are great. So it's kind of like you put the extra into it because you respect everybody that's at the table and you want them to love the meal that you're serving. So it's been an amazing experience, very learning. I've learned a lot.
Similarly, flipping that coin around, are there any things that you found like, oh, wow, that's actually really similar to what I was doing before? From like the personal relationships you have, some of the way that the business works, what have you carried over?
I think it's, at the end of the day, it's entertainment. We want the game to be deadly serious, not deadly, but very serious. The rules, the competition, we want guys to work hard to try to win the game. But we want to have fun with everything else pretty much. We don't want to take ourselves too serious. We don't want to start giving technical fouls because a guy dunked on another guy and screamed in his face and told him, you can't guard me. It's like we don't want to take the fun out of the game. So, that's right up my alley. Keep the fun in, keep it interesting, keep it entertaining.
Keep it basically trying to create a product which fits with your own kind of personal brand.
Yeah.
People only have so much free time and so much disposable income. So whether it's on video games, music, film, TV, sports, they're all vying for that attention. But I would be remiss if I didn't leave one thing out in terms of the learning process. And the learning process is, we thought we're good for the game of basketball. We're helping all these guys continue their dreams and continue to participate in. I think we underestimated the fear of non-basketball people like Adam Silver, the commissioner, who was a lawyer and, kind of inherited his job, or Mark Tatum, or some of the other executives that weren't athletes. They don't understand it. They're scared little puppies that the big bad Ice Cube and Jeff Kwatinetz, those guys are terrible guys. They're trying to upend what we're doing. It's shocking to us, certainly to me, how small-minded and fearful they are. And at the end of the day, empowering players, being a black certified league, having female coaches before they were ready to, having mental health policy before they were ready to. getting players off opioids and letting them use CBD before they were ready to. They don't like that. They want to own and control. And the fact that our government don't want to help a black and a Jewish guy, that ain't what they care about in America. America is all about the people at the top and keeping them at the top. A lot of those basketball owners have a different aesthetic because they work their way to get there. And they're different. All the owners are different. But I'll tell you, I think if the players knew the kind of roadblocks and the dirty tricks and the stuff that was thrown in front of us, they really knew and saw it, and they would be really pissed. Because, don't get me wrong, the league has to make money and survive, otherwise there's no league. And the players ultimately get half the profits. So, we're working for them too. We do it aligned with our values and helping communities and helping players. You can do both at once. But at the New York suite, they don't want to do both. They just want to rule over the sport. They want to keep us out of the Olympics. They want to do whatever they can do, legal or antitrust, to keep us down. And they picked the wrong two guys.
I take it you guys like being disruptors, the punks in this scenario, right?
It's the path that we need to go to make sure, our voices are heard. And so it's fine. What I like about it is we changed the script. We don't have to go, it's like everybody going the same way, doing the same thing. And here come two guys who flipped the script. Now the world is starting all kind of leagues. Everybody think, they can do it. And so, it's just changing, the script and taking it out of the guys who usually have no competition. And so I dig it when it worked, for sure.
It's not that we like that. It's not like we have to fight. We don't fight just to fight. But we have our values and our beliefs. And if somebody wants to F with us, we're just not afraid. They want to fight? Okay, bring it on. We'll fight. But it's not like we go out there to do that. We're not trying to be bad guys. We're just trying to improve something that most people think is good for the sport and for the athletes overall. They want to stop us, kill us because they think they can. Bring it on. That's what they've done. It's shameful to me, but hey, man, it's America. It's run by the 1%, man.
Well, can you give me one example of that, of where that's happened?
There's a million examples. How about the fact that they won't even let anyone who owns a 0.001% of an NBA team to invest in the Big 3?
You know what? Don't even worry about it, man. There's no reason to bellyache. We good. We just sold our first team. They can't stop us. They've been trying to. You can't stop the bum rush. Public Enemy told us that in '87.
No, it's true. Okay, all right. One last question before I let you guys go. When was the moment you realized this was working? When you realized you had a hit, you had something that was good?
Day one, when we had 15,000 people in Brooklyn, and we had another 2,500 to 3,000 outside who couldn't get in. We knew we had some, and that the guys played hard. They went for it, and that's when we knew this is more than just a novelty. This is an actual league, and then we need to go to work. And then we went to work to, just kind of calibrate it and make sure it was fun to play and fun to watch.
Jeff, for you?
The legendary player, Bill Bradley, I met with him about it, and he said, listen, 3-on-3, you'll know in 5 minutes that you got a winner. If they play defense, it'll be the great. If they don't, pack it in. So that first game, like what Cube said, when they came out, and these guys played defense so hard, And, that's been a big complaint about what's been going on in the NBA and too many games and all that. Our guys, like, no one wants to be shown up, man, on international TV. And the game of 3-on-3 is more personal. And about 5 minutes in, I turned to Cube and I said, man, Bill Browdy was right. This shit is good. I remember him telling me shortly after, hey, watch your game. They're playing defense. It's going to be a long road, but you're going to win it.
Nice. I think that's a really good place to finish it. Guys, thank you so much. Best of luck to you. Yeah, really appreciate your time.
All right, man. Take it easy.